Hello friends, welcome again to the Uncovered channel. On this tour, I'm going to take you through a relatively small neighborhood called Apo Resettlement, which is a part of the first two districts in Abuja, Nigeria, known as Abuja district. This district has a luxury part, but the luxury part of this will be featured in part 2 of this tour. For today, we are going to cover the resettlement part of it for a reason. I'm approaching the Apo Resettlement neighborhood from Apo Mechanic Village. For those who have actually been to this area, so the entire right side of the road is where the neighborhood is located, the Apo Resettlement. So I'm going to take this right on to get into the Apo Resettlement. The entire Apo district is surrounded by a number of districts. There is Guzape district to the northeast. Guzape district is a very expensive district, also very close to Asokoro. I've done a tour of Guzape district, so you can check out the video of Guzape in the long form videos on this channel. There is Lokogoma district to the southwest of this Apo district, and then there is Gedua to the west and Gudu to the northeast. These are the districts that surround Apo district. You can access this district through Murtala Mohammed Expressway, which connects this Apo district to both Gariki and Guzape, as well as Asokoro. However, we're just taking a very small portion of the Apo district portion called Apo Resettlement. So let's go deep inside the neighborhood to see what it really looks like. Getting into the central business district takes about 15 minutes drive from this place, so it's not far from the city center. But why does this part of Apo district appear poorly developed despite being quite close to the city center? Well, the answer to that question is in the name of this neighborhood, Apo Resettlement. So I'm going to give you a bit of the history of resettlement in Nigeria, so you can have an idea, a general understanding of how this resettlement area and the other resettlement areas in Abuja came about. That way you will appreciate why this neighborhood is like that despite being so close to the city center. The first major policy statement made by Nigerian government in 1976 when it decided to move the federal capital of Nigeria from Lagos, which is in the coastal area, to Abuja, which is in the central part of the country, was for complete relocation of the entire inhabitants of about 300,000 people outside the new federal capital territory for ease and completion of physical development. Also, over the years, this policy underwent several adjustments until the government settled for the resettlement policy of 2005, which involved the moving of the original inhabitants of Abuja outside the federal capital city and any other areas designated for development. The adoption of that policy took quite a while. In fact, there were so many back and forth, which really delayed the implementation of that policy, since it was, since the idea was born back in 1976. There were disagreements on how to go about the policy, and so it kept going on and on, through different phases until finally the federal government settled for the resettlement policy of 2005. And that policy involved moving the original inhabitants outside the city or any other place that may even be closer to the city but are designated for development. In the implementation of this policy, a total of 12 communities were earmarked for resettlement. 12 communities were earmarked for resettlement. In the first phase, 4 resettlement sites were identified, each to host 3 communities of those 12. And the Apo Resettlement Site, where we are today, which sits on 460 hectares in the Abuja Municipal Area Council, happens to be one of those 4 sites meant for resettling 3 different communities. Those communities include Gariki, Apo, and Abujanigeria villages. So these 3 villages were to be resettled in this neighborhood called Apo Resettlement Site. The other 3 sites in the first phase of the resettlement scheme include the Wasa site, Shere Resettlement Site, and another one, I think it's called Abandana site. So the 4 of them make up the phase 1 of the resettlement scheme, and they were to, each of those 4 were to harbor 3 different villages that will be resettled. But for this Apo, it was for Gariki, Apo, and the Abujanigeria villages. They were the ones that were resettled to this place. The Apo Resettlement Scheme in particular was a partial resettlement where the people and their buildings were partially dislocated from their original homes and livelihood assets to give room for physical development, especially the development of houses in neighborhoods and access roads for the city workers. It came with resettlement packages for the affected communities in order to ensure, success or sustainability of the scheme. A total of 877 households were resettled and compensated as 2017 by the Federal Capital Development Authority, which happened to be the authority at the time in charge of the resettlement planning framework. What was included in the resettlement and compensation program included the new resettlement township with communal facilities such as community center, place of worship, houses, schools, boreholes, paved roads, electricity, and even movement allowance, and so on. Those were the things included in the resettlement and compensation program. And so each family, each of the 877 households that were relocated and resettled were to enjoy these facilities and the benefits I mentioned. So these elements are expected to turn the people around in terms of poverty alleviation, job creation, and enhanced standard of living. However, a number of challenges faced the scheme. The natives were not carried along in the design of the houses. The rooms were so small and unfit for human habitation. The resettlement site lacked space for expansion. So many challenges. Some persons entitled to houses were allocated plots instead, and houses meant for resettlement were allocated to non-indigenes instead of the indigenes. There was this problem of also encroachment on the public facilities and floodplains by, guess who? The land department itself, and sometimes AGIS, that is Abuja Geographical Information Systems, people that are actually supposed to ensure regulations, becoming the ones that encroached on the scheme. So those were the numerous challenges that the scheme faced. Well, these challenges led to some of the resettlers selling off their properties and relocating elsewhere. And today, the buildings you see here belong to the new owners who now remodel the original resettlement structures to salvage what was left of the neighborhood by the resettlement scheme. Many of the original resettlers don't live here anymore. They moved. Many of them moved further into the bush and sold off or rented out what was given to them. And so while some of the structures can still be seen, many of them have been. So look at the houses here. You can see that they are not so good looking, and the spaces are quite small, showing that they were not really, they didn't offer a lot of comfort to the original settlers, so they had to sell it off to move on to other places. And today, some of these spaces given to them have been sold out to other new owners who now remodel some of them to look better, even though the spaces are quite tight. Property is relatively well priced in Apo district in general compared to the neighboring phase 1 districts like Guzape. However, you can find even more pocket-friendly accommodations in this resettlement area for, of course, already discussed obvious reasons. So here, you might still be able to rent a house, a 3-bedroom flat for instance, for about 2.5 million or 3 million naira per year. Or if you want to rent a duplex, you can still find a duplex or 5-bedroom going for 5 million naira or 6 million naira, as the case may be. If you want to buy a property here, well, you can still get a 4-bedroom duplex for 150 million naira inside this place. Or you may find a bungalow, a live-alone bungalow, maybe 3-bedroom bungalow for as low as 100 million naira. But again, remember that the spaces are quite small, and that is why you may get them cheaper than what you will find in other parts of this same Apo district. So, having taken a tour of this neighborhood, if anyone is trying to sell you a property in Apo Resettlement, you have an idea what this place looks like. Or if anyone is trying to rent you an apartment here and you have not been here, you have an idea already what it looks like by following on this tour, by watching this video of Apo Resettlement. If you are looking for an Airbnb accommodation or a lodging accommodation or even a hotel, you already know what this place looks like. So if you're making a booking of an Airbnb and you are told that it is in Apo Resettlement area, well, this is partly what you're going to find. And so you have to make your decision whether this is where you're going to stay or you have to look elsewhere for the purpose you have in mind. hope you would like to give others the opportunity to also see this neighborhood. So please hit the like button for me so that more people will get to see this video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. That way I will show you more neighborhoods in Abuja city. Thank you for taking your time to watch this video. I promise to share more with you, so see you in the next video.